Hey, it's Randy from outgrow.co, and you're listening to the 360 Entrepreneur with Jan Ilunga.
This is episode 197, and today we talk about quizzes, how to use them to generate more leads and boost engagement. Here we go.
Welcome to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast, the show for entrepreneurs and small business owners who dream big and want to do bigger. Join some of the world's top entrepreneurs, internet marketers, and best-selling authors as they share their inspiring stories, their struggles, and give actionable tips that will help you build, grow, and promote your online business. Here's your host, Yanni Lunga.
Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to this new episode of the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast. You know me by now, Yanni Lunga coming to you all the way from Helsinki. As I hinted in last week's episode, today we talk about a brand new strategy you can implement to generate more leads. And there is a hint of that in the title. Today we talk about quizzes and calculators and how you can get started with either one to get people to not only to sign up for your email list, but also to be really engaged when they do that and get then more people and have them get more people to join your email list. We're joined by Randy Rayess, who is the co-founder of a company called Outgrow, and he has some very good advice that he shares on both quizzes and calculators. The show notes page for today's episode is over at yannilunga.com/episode 197. All right, time to grab some pen and paper and get started. Here's the interview with Randy Rayess from outgrow.co. Today, there is a very special guest here with us, and I'm really thrilled about what we're going to cover here. It's a brand new topic. He's the founder of Venture Pact and outgrow.co. Outgrow is a SaaS company that allows you to engage your site visitors and generate leads through interactive calculators and quizzes. And in case you're wondering what the heck those things are, you're going to hear more about those in a second. He's passionate about digital marketing, growth hacking, and remote working, and he is here with us. It's with great pleasure that I welcome on the show Randy Rayess. Randy, how's it going?
It's going great. How about yourself?
I can't complain. And I said I'm really pumped about today's topic. And I think we should dive right into it because really it's such a cool topic to cover here. And it's the first time we talk about this on the podcast, which is fantastic. And I guess the first question, Randy, I have to ask you is, I said you're the co-founder of Venture Pact and Outgrow, and I mentioned what Outgrow does. But still, could you take a moment to tell us a little bit more about yourself and what Outgrow is all about?
Sure. So I think what's the key premise behind Outgrow is that customers want to be engaged with, right? They want to be, they want you to engage with them in a dialogue. And so like if you go on a date and you spend all the time talking and it's just a monologue, then the other person is not going to have a great experience. It's just you're talking. But as brands, we kind of do that all the time. We just talk at people. And we think this kind of engaging and the ability to interact and engage with people is now fully available with of course, with the internet and the mobile phone. But the challenge as marketers is that it's very difficult for a non-technical marketer to actually create this personalized interactive experience. And so what we do at Outgrow is we created a tool, a SaaS platform that allows a marketer without any coding or design skill set to build personalized and interactive conversations and experiences with their audience so that they can be more relevant and more helpful to them.
Thank you, Randy. I love the example you made of the data. I think it made it really clear. And you said that sometimes even though we are aware of the fact that we want to have a conversation with our prospects, with our customers, we tend to talk at people, as you well said, rather than engaging them with a conversation that gets them excited and oftentimes could get them to do something. So I have to ask you if you can compare. So on your site, outgrow.co, you have a page where you have a very interesting comparison between calculator and quizzes. So the type of resources your company enables us to create versus ebooks and landing pages. So when it comes to the overall lead generation discussion, how do calculators and quizzes outperform ebooks, landing pages, and so forth?
Sure. There are a few key things you want to look at, right? So the first is that the first is that you kind of augment your ebook, white paper, webinar strategy with calculators or quizzes, and that's a key thing. Is that it's a new strategy, and that it's great for conversion. The key differences are that calculators or quizzes are very personalized. So an ebook is going to be written for everyone to read, and it's going to be pretty long.
Right.
Whereas something that's personalized, like saying what show should you watch next, or how much time would you save by using our software, or how much more revenue will you bring in by using our sales tool. Those are going to ask me specifically about your current business situation, your current number of salespeople in your company, and then you'll be able to then say, oh, based on past data, this is about how much time you'd save, this is about how much more revenue you'd bring in. And so you're going to generate a much higher, you're going to generate many more leads, because everyone, right before you show the result, you're going to ask for their email. So you're going to have a very high lead conversion rate. And at the same time, you're going to provide more value for your customer as well, for the user. So that's kind of the keys, that you're personalizing your results for that person. It's going to give them specifically for them which home they should buy that's relevant for their needs, as opposed to a generic home buying ebook. Usually people do ebooks and they don't do calculators. And now with our tool, where people are starting to do calculators as well, and the key is that it helps them, improves your conversion rate and improves your top of the funnel traffic. Because if you go on Facebook and you share something like that's really useful and helpful, then people are going to take it and share it even more. Whereas a 10-page ebook is not going to do as well.
Thank you, Randy, for explaining that. And I have to say, it's interesting. You guys have, I saw from your I think it was from your Facebook page, that you had a post where you said that on the New York Times, the piece of content that got shared the most wasn't an article, but was an actual, I believe it was a quiz or a calculator. And I think that's an interesting fact. And you explain how calculators and quizzes work versus ebooks. And what is interesting is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you said that with the quiz, for example, we can really personalize the experience every single person gets, and we can then direct them toward tailored content or tailored product and services, right?
That's correct. The New York Times story that you asked about was basically a quiz about what is your dialect. So you answer a set of questions and they're predicting where you're from based on how you specifically say things. So an example question would be, how do you reference a group of two or more people? And I'm from the West Coast, so I would say you guys. If there's a group of more people, that's the traditional way to say it. But people from the South in the US would say y'all. So you all, y'all. And so they can predict, and there's like 9 different ways people can say these things. And so this tool is actually really smart at predicting where people are from. And it did so well that it was launched on December 21st. And from December 21st to December 31st, it beat, just in those few days, it beat every other article in the New York Times throughout the year for total annual traffic. So it beat a January 1st post, everything, so every post that year, it beat them out. So it's kind of fascinating. And so a lot of people ask the question that you asked, which is why could this happen in such a short period of time for a dialect quiz? And the reason is that quizzes, as I said before, and calculators are about me. What is your dialect, right? How do you say reference a group of 2 or more people? And when something is about you, your identity, when something is helping you either learn something about yourself or it's entertaining and it's about you, then it's going to have a much higher share rate and it's going to have much more engagement. So this is what's kind of fascinating about how this kind of works. And no one predicted it to go this big and for it to have so many, this was crazy. But I think you kind of see how powerful the kind of tool is.
Yeah, not a bad result, what you share with us. I mean, in 10 days, outperforming pretty much anything else that happened before is quite crazy. And if we look at let's call it the structure or the step-by-step process for, maybe we can start with a quiz, Randy. How should we go about creating a quiz? Because obviously to a question we may ask, there may be several answers, 5 or even more answers, and things can get quite complicated. So do you have any advice on what to think about and do when it comes to planning a quiz that we want to use for lead generation?
Sure. So this is a great question. So I think of what questions your sales team get, what questions your customer service team get, And those questions are really good sample quizzes and calculators. So for a development agency, a question your salesperson always gets is, how much does it cost to build a mobile application? So you put a calculator, cost to build a mobile app. A lot of, if you're a B2B SaaS company, then you create a quiz or calculator that says, what is the ROI on using my tool, on paying for this monthly fee? If you're an e-commerce company, people want to figure out what's the most relevant product for them, right? So which product should I buy? Or I bought this product, what should I buy next? Or how much do you really know about furniture if you're selling furniture, right? And so you can create, so those are examples. Another way to look at it, that's kind of one strategy. Another way to look at it is to look at your funnel. For Outgrow, you know what we do, right? We sell this software. So a top of the funnel calculator quiz for us would be, how much do you know about interactive content, right? How much do you know about calculators or quizzes? It's just a knowledge test, or what type, or it could be an engaging thing, like what type of marketer are you? Are you like an innovative digital marketer? Are you more like, TV advertiser? What type of marketer are you? And so that would be a top of the funnel quiz. A middle of the funnel quiz for us would be something along the lines of, when should I invest in quizzes and calculators, right? Or what is the value of quizzes and calculators? Things around, I'm starting to actually get interested in calculators or quizzes. I'm starting to explore them in more detail. How many leads can I generate from a calculator or quiz? Or like, what type of calculator quiz should I launch? That question itself that you asked me would be a good middle of the funnel quiz. And then a bottom of the funnel quiz would be, what is the specific ROI of using your tool? How much business can I get in from using your product? Should I switch or add your strategy onto my ebook strategy? Specifically your business, specific dollars, going down to actually making the buying decision. So you build calculus quizzes for that. So that funnel strategy is a good way to look at it, along with looking at your sales team and customer success team and what questions they're getting asked.
Would you say, Randy, the example you made, or the possible quiz for Outgrow and looking at the funnels, would you recommend doing something like that? I mean, you talked about the importance of looking at the quote-unquote frequently asked questions so that we know what to focus on. And would you say that when it comes to quizzes and the example you made, should those points be all in the same quiz, or every point should be discussed in a separate quiz so people see the entry level of the funnel quiz and then they get on our email list, and then after some time we share a second quiz, and after some time a third quiz, or how to go about it? Because I know that quizzes may have like one questions, but we could even create a quiz with like 10 different questions.
It would be very difficult to do that, right? You have to separate them out. So you have a knowledge test, which is just a fun knowledge test, right? How much do you know about interactive marketing? You can have questions around calculators, around quizzes, around recommendations, around static marketing. And like, do you understand the difference between a blog post or a survey where there's no result, and a page where you have a result that actually is personalized? So you can ask them these 5 questions, and then you give them a score at the end. Okay, do they really understand it? And so that would do the job. And so you really have to kind of separate them. The ROI calculator is going to, because you only want to have between 5 and 9 questions in a quiz. And if you try to cover so many different topics and have 15 results on your results page, or 5 results, 6 results on your results page, it can get a little heavy. You're going to have more questions. Whereas if so if you really usually have one main result, and then you could have a couple results alongside them, a few that are tied to that one main result. But to have independent results on the same page is not usually a good strategy.
Okay, thank you, Randy, for making that clarification. So you heard Randy's advice. You can create as many quizzes as you want, and the easier you keep each individual quiz, the better. Obviously, the more effective it is. And like in every episode, you're going to find the links to everything Randy and I are covering in the show notes. So outgrow.co, Randy's Twitter page at Randy Rayess, and that's RandyRayess, so at Randy Rayess. And then I'm also going to link to the Outgrow blog and resources section, where you can find some interesting resources there that can help you get started with the quizzes, including a free course Randy and his team have called Boosting Lead Generation with Interactive Calculators. Okay, so Randy, you shared some examples of quizzes, and with Outgrow, one can create other quizzes or calculators. So I think calculators are pretty intuitive, but still, could you take a second to explain what a calculator is, and maybe if you could share an example of one?
Sure. A calculator is basically an experience where at the end you're providing some numerical output, right? So, the way it's the typical example is cost, savings, and ROI. So, what's the cost of building a mobile app? What's the cost of buying a car? How much can I save by using your product? How much more time can I? How much time can I save? How much money can I save? What is the ROI of using your product? Those are typical calculators. And then you can have a graded quiz, or a graded calculator would be like a scoring system where you score, people based on knowledge, or you rank people, right? So how do you rank? Could be considered a calculator. It's a numerical output, and it's showing you how do you rank relative to your peer group or relative to other people in the industry based on your knowledge about a topic or based on your behavior in a specific domain or specific situation. You can give them a score. So those would be a few examples around how to handle that.
Great. Thank you, Randy. And I said that with Outgrow, one can create other quizzes or calculators. If you look at some of, maybe some of your clients or something like that, is there one would you think would be better to use if one is getting started? So a quiz calculator, or it really depends?
That's a good question. So I think it depends a lot on the industry, right? And so a quiz is very quick to build. Like, it's quick to build. How much or a graded quiz, like how much do you know about this industry, right? It's quick, easy to build. A little harder would be to build something like how much time can you save, or what's the ROI, or how much additional revenue can you bring in? Because then you have to do research on your past data, and you have to kind of build the math formula around it. So quizzes are the easier thing to start with, but calculators, a really good calculator can be more powerful, all right? And so this is why our financial services customers always start with calculators. Our entertainment customers always start with quizzes. And then our B2B SaaS companies usually start with calculators. Although if they have a lot on their plate and it's a busy month, they might start with a quiz and then do the calculator over time. They start with a few quizzes in the first month. And then after they build 4 or 5 quizzes, the first month, the second month, they have some more time to really do proper research for the calculator, and then they do that.
Great. Thank you so much. So you heard what Randy just said. Depending on the business, you may want to start with a quiz or a calculator. And speaking of calculators, Randy, in your blog, you have an article, and there you discuss how calculators can activate cold leads. So could you take a second to share with everybody here how we can use calculator to activate what are called cold leads?
Okay. So there's 2 things, right? One is the traffic you have on your site. So you haven't even generated the lead, they're on your blog post. So what people use calculators there to take the traffic on your blog post and make that into a lead. So that's one strategy, because on a blog post, no one converts. Very few people convert on blogs, right? It's much more difficult to get them to subscribe on the blog directly, very low percentage. But if you have a quiz there about the blog, then in the quiz, it's much easier to convert, because during the quiz, you have the conversion, the email conversion. So that's one thing around cold traffic to lead. Your question about the other part is cold lead to a warm lead is about taking the date. So you probably have most people have thousands of emails on their list. And most of them, they're not very current, their data is old, they haven't engaged with them as much, or they send them emails, but they don't hear anything back. So how to make that cold lead more warm is by giving them something that's very relevant to their past engagement, a quiz or a calculator that's relevant to their past engagement, and then you get more modernized data. So if you spoke with a customer 2 years ago who said, you know what, they were very top of the funnel, they're just kind of exploring it, and somehow you captured their email on some lead magnet or some list or some event, and now you don't really know where they are, you send them a quiz or calculator that's relevant to that event that they were at, or relevant to any data you have about where that person's coming from, and then you try to, by them completing that quiz or calculator, you're now able to update that lead. By emailing them that quiz or calculator, you're able to update that lead. You can also target them on Facebook with that quiz or calculator, and so then you update their data, and it becomes a much warmer lead, because you have now their answers they've provided to those questions, right? If you ask someone 5 questions about their interactive content strategy, I will know at the end if you actually care about interactive content or if it's something that you're going to do in 6 months or right now. And then based on that, I'll be able to figure out how to better target you so you become a much more qualified lead, and it helps me prioritize who to reach out to. So I just get a lot more data about these leads. And so it's not only a warmer lead, it's a much more qualified lead, and I have a much more capability and information to allow me to prioritize my lead outreach strategy.
Man, thank you. I love it. Thank you, Randy, for sharing. I think what you just shared here with us really speaks volume of the power of what we're talking about here, quizzes and calculators, not only for generating leads, so to get new people to sign up for our email list, like you said, from blog posts and things like that, but also to re-engage people who may be on our email list, but who may not have been really active for quite some time. And you said it, so we should really look at quizzes and calculators as a tool that allows us to engage people who aren't on our email list as well as those who are on our email list. And early on, Randy, you talked about how quizzes work and examples of questions and things like that. And in terms of the where on our site to place a quiz or a calculator, do you have any advice on how to go about it? Would it be better for a quiz, let's say, to have its dedicated page, or should we consider add it as a pop-up that appears if somebody is reading a blog post, or do you have any advice?
So there's two parts to this question. One is where to place it, which is kind of the core part of your question. And for that, the most common way to do it is your key calculator quiz is usually put on your homepage, either embedded on your homepage or linked from your homepage to another page. And then the other page usually will have your header usually, and then you embed it right under your header as a full. It'll be like take up most of the page, but you just have your header on the top. So it's a full page calculator. So that's your main one. Then your other calculators or quizzes that are affiliated with every blog post, you'll usually have them at the top of the blog post, every calculator quiz to get them to convert, or at the bottom of the blog post. If it's something after someone read the blog post, they should complete. And then in terms of full page, in terms of pop-up, we have customers that do pop-ups. Although we do always tell them to be careful because some people have pop-up blockers and that has caused issues in the past. So depending on how sophisticated your audience is, your use of pop-ups should vary, but you could use pop-ups, right? But there is a challenge with that. The other part about distribution is a whole different topic around how to distribute the calculator quiz on email and social media and forums and groups on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Quora, and how to think about promotion strategy, which is a whole another ballgame. But I think in terms of where to place it, the most popular thing is to embed it on your website as either a full page embed or as an embed on a page with your header.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I have two more questions for you, Randy, before we wrap up. The first one actually is to expand on what you started to say there about the distribution. So once we have our quiz or calculator ready to go, everything is being set up in the back end. We have added the question or questions and everything. It's showtime. How can we go about promoting our quiz or calculator? Do you have any tips on that?
Sure. So I briefly mentioned that, you want to have an email strategy, you want to have a social media strategy, and then you want to have a groups forum strategy as well. The key thing with email is that you obviously want to target the people that are most relevant in your existing listserv. So send that out to them. You want to, of course, have links on your site. So as I said, link from your homepage to the calculator quiz so you can get traffic from there. And then you want to promote it on your social. So LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. And then you want to encourage sharing on the post. So you want to have it short. You want to have a really good results page that's kind of fun, that's kind of entertaining. And then that share button becomes a key way for you to actually acquire traffic on the results page. Because it's if someone will share a quiz or calculator, if the results page is something they're proud of or something that's funny and entertaining. That's a good way to do it. So if I'm a Lakers fan, if someone gave me a quiz about the Lakers and at the end they say, wow, you know a lot about the Lakers, then I'm more likely to share it because I feel proud of the fact that I know a lot about the Lakers, and then I will share it. And other people who know about the Lakers are going to be like, oh, Randy knows a ton about the Lakers. He got a perfect score. I'm going to take that quiz and I'm going to prove that I can also get a perfect score. And so that kind of game comes in and it starts to work really well. So you want to have that share button as well, and you want to have that results page do well. And then in terms of forums, depending on if it's your main calculator quiz, that's very useful for your audience. Like estimate the cost of building a mobile app is not just for your customers. Everyone always asks that question. And that's something that every listserv gets. So that needs to get shared on Quora, on Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, Twitter groups. These groups, not just your pages. Obviously, your page, you're going to do that either way, but the groups that already have discussions around these issues, when you put your calculator quiz there, people aren't going to be like, oh, you're promoting your product. They're going to say, wow, this is actually useful. This is actually helping me answer a question. And so that's a different strategy. And you might have your logo somewhere, but it's more like I'm helping you. And you get the email. So you might have your logo somewhere, you get the email, but you're actually helping them most of the time throughout the experience. And so that's a good strategy. And then paid media, so a lot of people will do paid media, the traditional things, if you can market it on, buy ads on Facebook or Twitter, or Google, as you can expect, the traditional paid media to try to get traffic. There are display ads as well. So you can have kind of a proper comprehensive promotion strategy for the launches. And we've had people where they get, over 50,000 engagements, over 50,000 visits to their only from a Facebook post. And so that's great. Not everyone's going to get over 50,000 from one Facebook post. Right. And we tell them, like, you're not always going to get that, right? You posted on Facebook and a ton of people shared it and it was a really good quiz and it works really well, right? But you can't expect every single one to just work from one post, right? You need to have a comprehensive strategy for promotion. So those are things that we tell people, comprehensive strategy for promotion, and not everyone's going to work. I just put something on Facebook and one post and that's all I need to do and it's all done and I get all this traffic to my site, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't always work like that. So you need to be thoughtful about these things.
Great. Thank you, Randy, for sharing some strategies with us on things we can do to get our quiz in front of people. And yeah, I mean, you said it obviously depends from each and everybody's strategy, depends from the business, where their prospects are and so forth, but you still shared some examples of different strategies we can implement right now. And the second question I have for you, Randy, and the final question really has to do with A/B testing. So this obviously is something for later on, even though there may be somebody here with you and I who is already playing with quizzes, so has already an idea on how quizzes work and so forth. So when it comes to A/B testing, I say quizzes obviously could be a quiz, could be a calculator. Is there anything that comes to mind? Is there something we should think about if we are trying to quote unquote optimize our quiz, or maybe we have an idea for a quiz and we are thinking to create a separate version to A/B test it? Any advice?
Yeah, so there's a few things most people will A/B test. They'll A/B test the strategy around the lead gen form and an offer. So if you have a lead gen form right before the results page, where you're asking for their name and email, some people will experiment putting the name and email on the results page versus before the results page. Some people will experiment with offers, so like a 10% discount on buying if you're doing a sports quiz and you sell sports shoes. You could do a 10% offer on the results page for buying sports shoes. You could do a 20% offer, and you can see how that works. What converts better. You can try a 5-question quiz versus a 6-question quiz. You can try different headings on the quiz. So there's a lot of different angles you can A/B test depending on your audience. Usually you want the title to be something very similar to what people are always searching on Google. So people always search on Google, like, what is the cost of building a home? What's the cost of buying a home in this area? That's a common question. So if you have that same title, that's good because you're able to get that SEO boost. But then you also, once you have that down, then you say, oh, I now have that down. I want to experiment with the image I use on my homepage of the welcome page of the quiz or calculator. So you experiment with that. You can experiment with a lot of things, but I think these are just a few things, as I mentioned, that you could A/B test.
Perfect. Thank you, Randy. This has been really a sort of workshop, a crash course on how to start leveraging quizzes and or calculators to generate leads and to engage people who are already on our email list. And I mentioned, again, your Twitter at Randy Rayess. I mentioned the site, outgrow.co. And I'll link, as I said early on, to everything we've covered here in the show notes. And this has been a great conversation, Randy. I want to say thank you, first of all, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And finally, final icing on the cake. If people would like to get in touch with you to say thank you, or maybe they have a question or something like that, what would you say is the best way to do that? Is it via Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter, LinkedIn is also good. You can message me on linkedin.com/in/Randy Rayess, Rayess. And then if they could also, if they have a question about Outgrow specifically, then they could email questions, questions, at outgrow.co as well. So those would all be great ways to do things. If they have specific questions for me and they want to email me, my email is randy@outgrow.co.
Okay, perfect. Is it okay, Randy, if I add the link to your LinkedIn page and the email addresses you mentioned in the show notes as well?
Sure, that's fine.
Perfect. All right. Randy, thank you again. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And we are back. Randy, again, thank you so much for taking the time and being here and telling us more about quizzes, calculators, and what Outgrow does. And you heard it at the beginning of the episode. I just want to give you a reminder. The show notes for today's episode, you can find them over at yanilunga.com/episode 197. Make sure to check out the page because you find the links to everything Randy and I have talked about, including his Twitter page, LinkedIn page, and also the free course his team has over at Outgrow. So make sure to check out the show notes page. And also, quizzes are something that I have started to play around with. So I'm going to be able to share more of my experience with quizzes very, very soon. Okay, this is it for today. Thank you so much for making Randy Rayess and I part of your day. And I'll be back with you, you know it, next week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast. For more tips and tools, head over to www.yanilunga.com.